minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You got a weekend coming up where you're going to have some downtime, I hope. I hope you've set up your schedule so you can relax after you've indulged in the food and all that. Many of us enjoy a good book when that happens, and we have one to tell you about. It's called The Homeport Journals. It's written by our guest, A.C. Burch. In addition to being a very talented storyteller and craftsman of words, I guess you would say, he's an author, in other words. With the Hometown Journals, he's also a classical musician, Robin.
That is a fascinating. I love that part.
And a photographer. So obviously, the part of the brain that takes care of creativity has been blessed by God for our guest, A.C. Burch. Good morning, A.C. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. How's the other side of your brain? You good at math and things like that, too?
Absolutely not.
Oh, you're not? Oh, no.
No, math and geography do me in every time.
Isn't that funny how that works out sometimes?
Yes.
Well, thank you for being on the air with us today.
It's a pleasure.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Provincetown at the tip of Cape Cod.
Oh, excellent. Oh, wow. What's the weather like there? It must be cold, huh?
We had our first freeze last night. There's a little bit of ice around. It's probably in the 40s by now, but winter's coming.
Well, let me tell you what it is here in Florida.
It's a good air day.
I'm going to be in South Beach next week, so I've got a pretty good idea. Yeah,
that's a beautiful area.
Bring a sweater.
I'm kidding. It was actually cool this morning. What was it? 38? No. 39 yesterday. 39 yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I will bring my sweater.
But that's not South Beach. We're way further. We're like 300 miles north of that area. So you're closer to the Tropic of Capricorn or something. Tropic of the Equator. Well, thank you for being on the air with us today. This is a roller coaster story that you've written, isn't it? And very personal. It sounds like.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of ups and downs in it, and some pretty fun characters.
So give us the movie trailer version, if you will.
Sure. The book is set in Provincetown, which is my hometown for nearly the last 30 years. Mark Nugent escapes an abusive relationship, and he does what a lot of people do. He runs away to Provincetown, and he ends up being hired by this wealthy recluse who lives in a big mansion way out at the end of town. She's inherited money from a whaling fortune. Provincetown used to be a major whaling port, in the days when New Bedford and Nantucket were similar. Within hours, he's met up with Helena Handbasket, who is the cross-dressing Mrs. Danvers channeling housekeeper of the Homeport estate.
Oh, my goodness.
It's funny.
Yeah, she's the kick. And it's not too long a period of time before he realizes that there's quite an estrangement between the woman that got him the job, who's an elderly Portuguese woman named Dori Machado, and Lola. And he digs into that and tries to understand what's happened. They've been at odds for nearly 60 years. And of course, there has to be some romance. So in the course of things, he also meets a handsome artist who really kind of complicates everything. So it's really the story of a group of people that have ended up out in a piece of sand in the middle of the Atlantic, not in the middle of the Atlantic, but in the Atlantic, and the family they create as they come to care for each other.
And are the two younger ones, are they working with the older ones to fix their relationship? Is that part of it?
They're sort of working around them. These two elderly women are so at odds with each other that a lot of it has to be kind of clandestine, but they do find an old journal, hence the name of the book, and it kind of explains what separated the two women, and in the end, that story helps to bring them back together again.
And give us a clue as what's in the journal. What did they discover?
Well, there was suspicions all along that Dory's mother had been murdered, and it was believed for decades that Lola's father had been the murderer, and so this is, Provincetown is an extremely small town, and the gossip mills were going for decades, and the fingers were pointing at Lola's family to the extent that she basically withdrew from town and kept to herself. And discovering her father's journals actually shows that it was not the case at all. And so there's kind of a reconciliation over that.
You really demonstrate in this book that there are mirror images, that once you have one life and you've done something in one place and then you're going to leave that place and go somewhere else, there could be some similarities, and you just have to come to grips with it. You can't keep running all the time.
Thank you, Robin. That's very very astute, and that was something I hoped I'd pulled off. So I'm very grateful that
You did a good
mentioned
job.
that.
I see that all the time. If I go someplace new, not everybody I see, but I'll go to a mall in a town I've never been to. I say, oh, that looks like Robin. So somebody. Anyway, so when is there anything in your life that this comes from, or is this completely fictional?
I think the thing that is most in my life is that the main character Mark wanted to be a writer, and I wrote this at the point that I wanted to be a writer. And so I think there are a number of my insecurities that are peppered in throughout the book as he struggles with how to do this. And, you know, the transition from performing to writing was something that I struggled with for quite a while. I also think that my life in Provincetown has really played out within the pages of the book. The characters are based on composites of people I knew and neighbors I had, and you know, sort of the whole parade that is Provincetown. So I would say those are the two main parts.
Well, the classical musician part of your credentials, is that what your primary job has been?
It was early on. I was playing in a couple of orchestras. I played in the Hartford Symphony as kind of a rotation player when I got out of school. And in Massachusetts, they put through a law that basically limited how taxes could be raised in a given year. And that kind of killed the private lesson business I had. So I gigged for a number of years, but I went into computer programming for the health benefits and the real money, as they say. So, you know, my life has been kind of a series of trade-offs.
Oh, my goodness.
Work, and then you go and do a gig. You must know that. I mean, you're a musician as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for looking us up. And absolutely, it happens that way. But you know, it's just a shame that we can live this whole life and not explore whatever creative gifts we've been given. And it sounds like you're exploring them. And now, as being an author, you're exploring something totally different. Were you, as a classical musician, were you also a composer? Since you write books,
No.
No.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. Another writer friend, Heidi Jon Schmidt, who's written several books about the Cape. We were talking one time early on in my saga, and she said, the big difference is when you're a musician and performer, you interpret, and when you're a writer, you create. And that kind of daunted me for quite a while. It took me a while to get past that, but she's absolutely right. They're two different experiences, although they share certain facets in common.
Yeah, very true. But even a writer who wrote a song like I was watching this thing the other day from Supertramp. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy's been around like 30 years and doing
I love that.
doing the same song. So he wrote it 30 years ago. He becomes an interpreter of his own work for the rest of his life. Yeah,
That's right. That's true.
Well, good luck with the book. I kind of wish we had more time to talk with you, AC. I have a copy of it here. Call me if you want the copy that I have. The rest of us have to go buy it. Give us a website we can go to.
www.acburch.com.
Okay, and of course Amazon, etc.
Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, All Romance, everywhere we could park it.
There you go.
Nice.
Thank you. We'll be right back.